Before we jump into today's video, I want to give a massive thank you to Easy Roller Dice for sponsoring today's video with their brand new color shift dice trays. Easy Roller's dice trays have always been wildly popular, and they're just frankly handy to have at the table. Like, they're really easy to use. The new color shift trays look incredible, and the Kickstarter has already tripled and is on its way to quadrupling its original goals as of this video and begun to unlock all kinds of stretch goals. But there's only a few more hours left, I think about 30 or so when this video goes up, to jump in on the Kickstarter. So down in the description for this video, you'll find a link where you can go and check out this limited run for yourself. And when you use that specific link, it of course lets Easy Roller know that I sent you over, which is really a great way to help out the channel. So thank you, Easy Roller Dice, for being a part of the Taking 20 team. Affectionately called Holy Warriors, Crusaders, Wardens of the Light, and even Champions in some systems, Paladins have been a staple in Dungeons & Dragons and fantasy since the earliest of days. And here in D&D 5e, it's no wonder why so many people love to play them. They're often our chance to play the best idolized versions of ourselves. What would we be like if we could met out justice with swift righteousness? Also, Paladins are like really good, like really incredibly good. But which of these Paladin Oaths is the best? Which of these archetypes is the worst Paladin Oath? That's what I'm here to answer today as we dig into the last 6.5 years of 5e content, including the most recent release of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. As last time with the Warlock, let's quickly discuss the parameters, right? What are we looking for? First off, the Paladin is a level 3 archetype class and gives us a unique set of spells as well as a pair of channels at level 3. At level 7, we'll look at the auras. We also get features at level 15, and finally, the Paladin is a true capstone class as we get our final oath feature at level 20. And where it is applicable, I will be looking a bit at the flavor, right? Does the Paladin Oath have cohesion? Does it feel unique? Does it execute those abilities built around its theme well or poorly? And finally, I will of course be weighting the earlier abilities more than the level 15 and level 20 features, as that's just, common sense. If you're going to be playing one of these Paladin Oaths in a game, the amount of game time you'll get to use your level 20 capstone is significantly less than the level 3 spells and channel that you're going to get. Let's jump right into it. Coming in at number 9 on our list of worst to best Paladin Oaths in D&D 5e is the Oath of Conquest Paladin from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. First, I will say this. I don't think the Oath of Conquest Paladin is unplayable. In fact, it has a couple of high points, which is something I couldn't say about our worst of the worst warlocks from last week's video. But let's start with the spell list, since this is the first feature we get at level 3. Overall, this spell list is perfectly average. And I think that this is probably the reason why the Conquest ended up getting beat out by better oaths. The main problem is that the first level of spells are really hampered by a middle-of-the-road command spell and a terrible spell, Armor of Agathis, which honestly is one of the worst level 1 spells in the entire game of 5th edition, but somehow it manages to become even worse on the Paladin with this oath than the Warlock. The spells do eventually become, dare I say, good, but do require a caster-heavy build, so not really as flexible as some of our other lists. Moving on to the channels, we get Conquering Presence, which is an AoE fear effect that is pretty solid overall. And then we get Guiding Strike to add plus 10 to 1 attack roll, which I believe to be vastly overrated in 5e. If this was Pathfinder 2nd edition, maybe that's a different story. At level 7, we get a poorly designed aura that needs us to combo off to even get it to trigger. A little bit of static damage if we get A, within 10 feet of the enemy, B, the enemy has failed a saving throw for a fear effect that we cause to it, and C, we don't drop from another enemy before the first enemy's turn, all so we can deal, half Paladin level damage? Terrible. But at 15, we pick up Scornful Rebuke, which is laughable. Even with the charisma mod of a full +5, every time something hits our level 15 juggernaut of an Oath of Conquest Paladin, they take two damage after rounding down, because, you round. And at level 20, we get Invincible Conqueror, which is, cool, but nothing that would impress a level 2 barbarian. Still useful, but not the incredible bomb it could have been to justify staying Paladin for a full 20 levels. Overall, I find the flavor of the Conquest Paladin to be intriguing. I actually don't mind what Wizards of the Coast was going for here. I think the concept is pretty cool. The tenets of conquest, douse the flame of hope, rule with an iron fist, and strength above all feel cohesive and pretty flavorful to me. Where the issues arrive for me is the method in which they try to accomplish those tenets. To be a good Oath of Conquest Paladin, you're going to need to build your Paladin to be good at casting spells and triggering fear effects with high wisdom save DCs. And that doesn't exactly scream rule with an iron fist to me. And clearly, even though I don't hate the flavor, it wasn't enough to save this slow building class from the bottom of our rankings here. Moving up the ranking to number 8, we have the Oath of Glory Paladin from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Starting off with their list of spells, we get a below average spell list with really bad choices like Enhance Ability and the rarely useful Freedom of Movement, with a couple of mildly useful spells in Heroism and Magic Weapon, and then one of the best spells in the entire game of all Dungeons & Dragons 5e, Haste. But even with Haste, which we don't get until we're level 9, there is no doubt that when comparing this list with our other Paladin Oaths, it falls well below that median line of average down into the fully subpar category. But how about our other level 3 feature, Channeled Divinity? Well, they're also below average. First, we have Peerless Athlete, which is one of the weirdest channeled divinities we get. We basically go Popeye, which is a reference that will certainly date myself, and can move some stuff around more than what we normally could for about 10 minutes. Then we get Inspiring Smite, which sounds awesome and looks like a 2-for-1 ability, giving you healing with your damage, but in reality, it's a 2-for-3 ability, as it requires you to spend your channel to activate it, and a spell slot to be able to trigger it, and you need to actually score a hit on something in order to spend that spell slot to activate it. Imagine, for a moment, you're out of spell slots and lay on hands, but you attack and finish off the dragon as a last-ditch effort before you would have dropped 2. You turn and see the rest of the party down from a huge breath weapon attack. Several of them are making death saves because, hey, dragon breath. You know, if you could just get the cleric up, they could mass healing word, saving everyone, and you have an unused channel. And you can't use it because you don't have the spell slot. And even if you did, you're gonna have to find like a squirrel or something to smite so you can pull off your bit of healing. Or it could just be that the whole situation again, except this time you simply miss the dragon's AC and now you can't trigger your channel. Bottom line, it's a channel that you don't get to use when you need it, and it's really, really clunky. But at level 7, do things get better with an aura? No, they get much worse with the second worst ability we're going to see today, in Aura of Alacrity. All this does is boost you and your party's speed, which can be useful at times. But my issue here is that allies have to start their turn within 5 feet of your character in order to gain 10 feet. That's awful. What about initiative? You go first and then you move up extra fast to the enemies, and now your Bladesinger goes and they can't even catch you to gain all those benefits at all. We're not even talking about what happens if you cast haste on yourself first. Increasing your speed 10 feet and sometimes an ally or two is just not good enough for a level 7 Paladin aura, especially when we talk about some of these other auras as we get further up this list. However, the reason the Oath of Glory was able to beat out the Oath of Conquest on our ranking is because their last 2 abilities at level 15 and 20 are just bombs. At level 15, we get Glorious Defense, which lets us boost the AC of our allies in a 10-foot radius or 20-foot diameter as a reaction. This also might trigger some additional damage from us, which may very well help us burst down some bigger monsters. And at level 20, we get Living Legend, which is the best Paladin capstone in the game, and easily one of the best capstone abilities for any class in 5e. The fact that we can spend a 5th level spell slot to trigger it again is astounding. As for flavor, I think the flavor of the Oath of Glory Paladin is pretty poor. I mean, I get the concept, right? It's certainly tropey, but the execution is so weird and bad, and the spell list has hardly any cohesion to it at all. I mean, freedom of movement and commune and protection from energy, it's also discombobulated. And really, guys, this class in 95% of campaigns is really pretty bad. If I was playing from level 1 to 12, I would not play this Paladin. Level 12 to 20, maybe that's a different story. All right, real quick, guys, I want to ask you if you have joined the Taking 20 Discord channel yet. I mean, it's free, It's awesome. We have a wonderful community of literally thousands of people, and it's a great place to find games and discuss more D&D. So link to join is down below in the description box for this video. I'll see you guys over there. Moving on to the last paladin in our bottom ranks here, and coming in at number 7 is the Oath of Devotion paladin from the Player's Handbook. Over to the spells, we, once again, get a below average spell list with a few crossover spells from the Oath of Glory list that we just looked at. I do, however, like the utility here a bit more with stuff like Zone of Truth and Dispel Magic, though Lesser Restoration and Beacon of Hope will feel lackluster at times throughout the course of a campaign. They just will. Now, over to our channel divinity abilities, and we get fairly mediocre channels here with Sacred Weapon, which is certainly useful, but it gets knocked down a peg due to its action requirement to activate. So on round 1 of a combat scenario, we'd be giving up 2 attacks after level 5 every time we want to activate it to start using it on round 2. It's a little rough. And we get Turn the Unholy, which is another middle of the road channel. When it goes off, it'll be fantastic. But simply put, this is not going to be a channel that is useful in every session of D&D. And in ones where we do get to use it, we still need to count on a failed saving throw from our targeted fiends and undead. At level 7, we finally get our aura, and it just so happens to be not only the worst paladin aura in the game, but the worst paladin feature in the game with Aura of Devotion, protecting ourselves and our allies within 10 feet from the Charmed condition. I mean, I'm not sure what else to say here. I kind of feel like that speaks for itself. Then at level 15, we snag up Purity of Spirit to give ourselves permanent protection of evil and good, which is useful here in the endgame for sure. And at level 20, our capstone is Holy Nimbus, which when compared to the rest of the capstones is maybe one of the weaker capstones. Though static damage is always nice, and who doesn't want advantage on a saving throw whenever they can get it, right? Now, the flavor. The flavor is a bit too Clark Kent for me here with the Oath of Devotion tenets, but at least they fit a motif, and I think that the rest of the class features seem to fit nicely together as well. But man, that Charmed aura, it's just baffling. Jumping up to our middle tier, we have the Oath of the Crown from the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, coming in at number 6. Starting off at level 3 with our spell list, this is the first time we've seen a truly excellent spell list in all of our rankings, as it is filled with great spells like Spirit Guardians, Banishment, and the underrated Boss Neutralizer Compelled Duel. The weakest thing on this list is Warding Bond by a mile, but 9 out of 10 spells being good to incredible puts this list right up towards the top of the Paladin Oaths. The channels here aren't terrible either, with the usable Champion Challenge that prevents monsters from moving more than 30 feet away from you until you drop or die, and the quite good Turn the Tide, which is a light version of Mass Healing Word that you can use a couple of levels earlier than Mass Healing Word. At level 7, we get an aura that is so close to being excellent, but as is with its limited range, sits comfortably at the slightly above average with Divine Allegiance, allowing us to take damage for our allies as a reaction if they are right next to us. If you have a particularly squishy party member though, with good strategic movement, this can be nasty as our aura says damage, meaning damage from any source, whether that's an attack or a spell or even a trap. And at 15, we pick up Unyielding Spirit, which again is perfectly average, giving us advantage against paralyzation and stun. Usable, but not game-changing. And at level 20, we get Exalted Champion as our capstone, and a pretty decent one at that. While resistance to several basic damage types might not be as usable this late in the game as you might have hoped for, granting all allies within 60 foot diameter centered on ourselves advantage on all wisdom saving throws is an absolute bomb for a capstone. Oh, and we get that advantage for an entire hour, not just like a 1-minute activation. For flavor, I really enjoyed the flavor here for Oath of the Crown, though I'm just not sure how unique it feels. It does feel a bit sporadic in its design as well. I mean, Zone of Truth, Aura of Vitality, and Banishment don't exactly feel like there's much cohesion. And even the tenets feel awkward with the Law tenet and the Loyalty tenet's descriptions directly contradicting each other about law being the most important thing, but really oaths are the most important thing, and they would in essence render laws meaningless. It's a little weird, but I don't know, I still kind of like it for some reason. Moving up to number 5, we have reached our midpoint with the Oathbreaker Paladin from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Jumping over to the spell list for this evil-only Paladin, we get a pretty average spell list with some decent highlights like Darkness, Confusion, and Dominate Person, and some subpar spells like Bestow Curse and, ironically, Inflict Wounds. Now, normally, I would consider Inflict Wounds one of the stronger level 1 spells for raw damage output at 3d10 damage, but for the Paladin, casting Inflict Wounds with a melee spell attack with your entire action is almost always worse than just using the same level 1 spell slot to add 2d8 for a smite or even a 4d8 smite with a crit while still getting your normal weapon damage and passive strength score plus a potential second attack with extra attack that all benefits from your fighting style bonus, unlike just, casting Inflict Wounds would do with that same level 1 spell slot. For channels, we get some really great options, however, with Control Undead, allowing us to completely control an undead that has the same CR or less than our level for 24 hours on a single save for the entire day, though triggering this will be totally DM dependent. Dungeon Masters that crank up their CRs on their monsters may not give you many opportunities to use it. And we get Dreadful Aspect, which is a much better fear bomb than the Oath of Conquest Conquering Presence, based on the mechanics of when your failed creatures get to attempt another save. In essence, allowing you to pin a creature in an enclosed space without them being able to move closer and thus past you to trigger another saving throw because they can't get more than 30 feet away. At level 7, we get maybe the most interesting aura for any of the Paladin Oaths with Aura of Hate. This boosts our melee weapon rolls with added Charisma mod as a static damage mod, but it neither helps out our allies at all, and it also boosts the attacks of any undead and or fiends which are nearby. And it does synergize well with Control Undead, but it's certainly one of those double-edged swords that might get you and your party into a bit of a pickle. At level 15, we get a slightly above average ability with supernatural resistance that may or may not be useful in the last quarter of the campaign. And at level 20, we get the capstone Dreadlord. This is a pretty interesting ability to trigger a 30-foot shadowy aura that works against creatures that are currently frightened of you. I mean, here's the deal. The effects are incredible, but at this point, a lot of stuff is going to come with legendary resistance. However, if this ability does pop off against a big bad, it's going to be devastating. Also, you probably don't want all your party quite so bunched up and so easily fireballed by big, smart, scary fiends and or silver dragons. Yes, silver dragons, because, you'll be in an evil campaign because you're evil, because you're an Oathbreaker, because you're, it's evil only. Now, flavor is solid. I personally don't care for evil campaigns as a player, though I am indifferent as a Dungeon Master. However, if evil is your thing, or your table mostly ignores hard-written alignment as a barbaric system from the 1970s that if it was removed wouldn't change a single damn thing or moment of fun at your table with your friends, then I think the Oathbreaker is pretty flavorful. Its abilities have cohesion and clearly work well together, and the best Oathbreakers will want to almost be charisma and constitution heavy with strength as their third most important stat rather than the other way around. It's definitely going to feel like an Oathbreaker at the table. Moving on to our last oath in the middle tier, and I'm going to say this now, I had to really spend a lot of time weighing this against the final 3 to keep it at 4, but coming in at number 4 for our best Paladin Oaths in Dungeons & Dragons 5e is the Oath of Ancients Paladin from the Player's Handbook. Sliding right into the spell list, I gotta say, I really like the spell list. Not for just how strong these spells are, but also because of how well these spells lend to creative play. If you're playing a paladin, spells that just do damage are never gonna be as good as spells that can be used for utility, because the paladin can just turn any spell slot into damage with a smite when and if they need to. So, when we look at the Oath of the Ancients, we get a spell list with a lot of unique options like Misty Step, Plant Growth, and Tree Stride that really helps prop this class up. I chose Ensnaring Strike here as the best spell only because we get it so early and it will always be useful as the best spell. But honestly, if you want to put one of the other spells I mentioned here, I wouldn't really argue with you too much. There's a lot of great stuff here. Now, as for the channel divinities, we get one really great channel and one that is, pretty lackluster. Nature's Wrath is a solid channel ability that restrains a target within 10 feet. Here's a tip. The reason this is so great is because it is a save at the end of the turn for the target to escape. meaning they cannot escape with an action and then move. The best way to use this is to pick the right spot in the initiative order to trigger it. Simply hold your action with the trigger to use your channel right after your target is gone or moved or attacked or whatever. That way your entire team will get a full round of attacks at advantage against them before they can save and then break free. Now, Turn the Faithless, on the other hand, is fantastic when the situation calls for it, and it works, while the majority of the time during your games, you may not even really be able to use it. At level 7, we get our second true 10 out of 10 bomb with Aura of Warding, which gives us and our allies in the aura straight up resistance to damage from spells. Yeah, there isn't really much more to say. That is incredible. At 15, we pick up Undying Sentinel, which lets us stay at 1 hit point if we're about to drop, and our capstone, Elder Champion, at level 20, lets us cast spells with an action as a bonus action, gives us troll regeneration, and the biggest feature here, gives disadvantage to our enemies within 10 feet from our spells and channels. The flavor. The flavor for Oath of the Ancients it's great. Most of the spells and abilities have a lot of cohesion that does seem to execute well together. Misty Step is probably the oddest part of this class when it comes to evaluating the flavor, and that's a very strong spell. Not really my cup of tea, but if Tree Paladin sounds good to you, you will feel like a Tree Paladin, a pretty strong Tree Paladin. Now, moving on to our top tier, we have the Oath of the Watcher's Paladin from the recent Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, coming in here at number 3. Sliding straight into the spells, we have a perfectly average spell list here again. That completely sucks at the beginning with Alarm and Detect Magic, a spell that we don't want to waste our spell slots on since we're not a ritual caster, and then it picks up nicely towards the end with Hold Monster, Banishment, and the incredible counter spell on our list. As for our channels at level 3, we get, once again, 2 more perfectly average channels with Watcher's Will, a solid ability to grant allies advantage on intelligence, charisma, and wisdom saves, and Abjure the Extraplanar, which is basically a turning channel, but for elementals, aberrations, celestial phase, and fiends. Meaning a lot of stuff, but not undead or monstrosities or humanoids or giants or dragons, etc. So useful, maybe, but probably not useful in every game you're going to play. At level 7, we get one of the most powerful paladin abilities in the game with Aura of the Sentinel, allowing ourselves and our allies to gain an initiative bonus equal to our proficiency modifier. This is an absolute bomb. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is all about action economy, period, full stop. If you get 80% of your party to go first, that is an enormous statistical swing. And that's not even taking into account what happens when the party gets this bonus and rolls well and surprises the monster in the first round, effectively going twice before each of your enemies gets to go even once. Don't sleep on this. This ability is phenomenal. I mean it, it's phenomenal. Then at 15, we get a slightly above average ability with an infinite reaction extra bit of damage if something throws a mental save at you or your allies with Vigilant Rebuke. And at level 20, we get the second best capstone ability for the Paladin with Mortal Bulwark. This allows us to pick up advantage against the extraplanar creatures with the chance to permanently banish said creatures if they fail a simple save. Obviously, at this level, you're far more apt to come across these incredible fiends and fays and aberrations during your adventures than you probably are during your lower first few levels of the game. And the flavor of this oath, I think, is really, really interesting. It certainly has some synergy between its abilities and a fairly strong motif, but it's a class that could get caught outside of a D&D campaign, meaning it's so strongly tied to this extraplanar banishment vibe that if you end up in the ocean fighting with Sahuagin and pirates, you know, your character could really end up feeling out of place. And so, on to our runner-up, and coming in at number 2 on our list of worst to best Paladin Oaths, we have the Oath of Redemption Paladin from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Right out of the gate, let me say this. This spell list is the best spell list for any of our Paladin Oaths. Bomb after bomb after bomb with Hold Person, Resilient Sphere, Wall of Force, Hold Monster, and the incredible counterspell. And not only are all these spells fantastic, but they are all fantastic and they do more than just raw damage, which gives the Oath of the Redemption Paladin plenty of choices during a game to either use one of these spells creatively or just turn the slots into big damage spikes with Smite when those crits show up. Let's talk about the channels. First up, we have Emissary of Peace, which might be my favorite channel in the game because it's quirky as hell, letting us boost our own persuasion for 10 minutes. Every single day you spend in a town or city, you can use this ability if you want, knowing that you'll most likely, though not always of course, get to rest or sleep before heading out to adventure so you can use your other channel. What channel might that be? Oh, just one of the 2 best channels in the game with Rebuke the Violent. Do not underestimate just how good this is. As we get to, spend a reaction, reflect radiant damage back onto an attacker that has dealt damage to one of our allies. And even if they save, they still take half radiant. Like almost nothing has resistance to radiance. This is so good. Just for fun, I pulled up a CR5 Hill Giant. This thing has a negative wisdom modifier for its saving throw, and just using the average hit points of 105 and average damage, so not even like a big hit, just an average rock throw damage of 21, you would, as a reaction, deal back 20% of the giant's total life with a reaction. Its max damage on the same attack would deal back a full 33.333% of its points as a reaction. And that's really the part that makes this so strong, because unlike a spell, you're not slowing down your damage output against a boss to cast something. If you have a wizard that's hasted you, you're still throwing 3 attacks looking for crits that you can smite on and dealing out huge helping of damage to turn back the tide when an ally takes a big hit. And to put a final bow on why this is rated so highly is because this ability is a bomb at level 3 when we get it, and it's a bomb at level 20 when we're fighting Tarrasques and demigods. It is one of the 2 best Paladin channel divinities in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It just is. But we are not done, because we turn around and at level 7, we get an excellent aura with Aura of the Guardian, allowing us to further utilize that very powerful reaction during combat to shield our allies from taking a potentially lethal hit at the cost of our own life. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is all about action economy. If you can keep your allies on their feet and performing their own actions, you've effectively doubled your efficiency at the point where they normally would have dropped against a monster or a villain. And very clever, dedicated healers will realize it is much more efficient to cast high value heals on a single target than trying to spend higher level spell slots to heal the entire group each a little. At level 15, we get another powerful feature that lets us passively heal when our health gets too low. On its own, the healing isn't a ton, so it would be an average ability. However, paired with Aura of the Guardian, this ability has to be valued higher in our ratings. Clever paladins might even be able to just take the dodge action and try to soak damage for the party if things get a little rough because of this ability. And finally, at level 20, we do slip down quite a bit with the capstone in Emissary of Redemption that might sound better on paper than it is in practice. It's really odd to try and almost trick your enemies into attacking you before you attack them back in order to trigger this reflective damage. Initiative might even pose an issue. And if a demon lord moves up and attacks the party's ranger before you go, are you really just gonna sit there and try to provoke it to attack you for a chance to reflect damage? Probably not. As for the flavor, I'm going to consider this strange. I mean, it's trying to be a pacifist, and most of its abilities are keyed around mitigating and even denying damage. I mean, I don't know. I think it's quite good, and it does have a bit of a motif. I'm just not sure it's a widely appealing one. Like, I don't think it would have any replayability. I could play plenty of Valor Bards, or Bear Barbarians, or even Oathbreakers. But how many pacifists do people really want to play back to back? Probably it's a one and done typey thing. I don't know, maybe you're watching this and thinking your next character is going to be a pacifist. Well, here you go. You got a pacifist. Pacifist. I said that right? Yeah, I did. And so that brings us to our very best Paladin Oath in all of D&D 5e, the Oath of Vengeance Paladin from the 5th edition Player's Handbook. Let's get right into the spells here with the second best spell list just behind the Oath of Redemption by the slimmest of margins. Bane, Hunter's Mark, Hold Person, Misty Step, Haste, D-Door, Banishment, Hold Monster, bomb after bomb after bomb. My one gripe with this list is that it's so concentration heavy, and of course, you can only concentrate on one spell at a time. That's really the only thing that knocks it. What I do like, however, is that the spells shift back and forth between boons like Hunter's Mark and Haste and debuffs like Bane and Hold Person. So if you want to focus more on your constitution and strength, you have good choices. Or if you want to be a little bit more caster heavy with higher charisma and higher spell DCs, you can certainly go that route too. There's plenty of options here. Moving on to the channeled divinities, we get two amazing abilities that just the opposite of the spells slightly edges out the Redemption Paladin. First, we snag Abjure Enemy, which is the best of all the fear bombs as it goes out 60 feet and undead and fiends save at disadvantage. And to be honest, I may have even rated this too low, as that disadvantage might be a great way to eat through legendary resistances for boss fights to let your casters land big knockout punches. And then we get Vow of Enmity, which is our second 10 out of 10 channel divinity among all the Paladin subclasses. First off, it triggers as a bonus, which is better than the Sacred Weapon channel divinity from the Devotion Paladin. And then it creates the single best crit fishing ability in the game for 1 whole minute. True, it only targets one, where a barbarian might be able to recklessly attack several targets during a combat, but we don't have to worry about that pesky returning attack at advantage against us either. And with our ability to smite after seeing whether we crit or not, this ability is just so powerful considering how early in a campaign we get it. I mean, we get this at just level 3. That's insane. And it actually increases in effectiveness as we level, as we gain extra attack at 5 and higher level spell slots to smite with throughout the course of a full campaign. At level 7, we get an aura that I find to be a little underrated with Relentless Avenger. This lets us move after an attack of opportunity, but this is sneaky good and pairs incredibly well with the Sentinel feat, allowing us to basically lock down melee combats and move as we like. And at level 15, we get another bomb in Soul Vengeance, which lets us trigger additional attacks with our reaction if our Vow of Enmity target makes any attack. Note that this says attack, not melee attack. So spell attacks and range attacks completely count. This ability will let us crit fish like we've never crit fished before. More attacks at advantage, smiting every time we see that natural 20 pop up on the die. And finally, our capstone, Avenging Angel, comes at level 20, and while it may not be the strongest capstone we've seen during our rankings, it might be the most fun as we suddenly sprout wings from our back and take to the skies to battle our foes. Oh yeah, and now we aura bomb every single turn, granting our allies advantage on any enemies that fail their saves. There are many Paladin Oaths that are really incredible to play, but there are just none better than the Oath of Vengeance from the Player's Handbook. Now, I want to ask you guys, where did Cody mess up, right? I mean, I asked you guys this last week in the Warlock video, and you guys are being snarky. I saw the comments. I appreciated the comments. They actually made me laugh really hard, so thank you. But typically when I ask people this, you know, they like to argue with me. You guys didn't argue last week, and that, you know, maybe I missed that a little. Maybe I missed a little argument of like, hey, you're dumb. I mean, don't write that. That'll ruin my day. But seriously, where did I mess up? What did I get wrong? What did I rate too highly? What abilities did I screw up that you guys are like, oh, that's not what that ability does? Let me know in the argument section down below. It's for arguing. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, or you're learning to love role-playing games as much as I do, I would love to have you subscribe. I put out videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more stuff just like this. So yeah, if that sounds like something you might be interested in, hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Also, guys, for those of you who are subscribed and not getting videos in your feed, be sure to actually hit that bell. I haven't been asking people to hit the bell throughout my YouTube career, but apparently the algorithm is like not liking me because I took some time off for my dad's cancer fight and like, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, hit the bell. I'd appreciate it. I want to give a massive thank you to all the incredible patrons over at welcomeadventures.com. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much for all of your incredible support. It's because of you that I can keep doing what I love to do. And for that, I'm so incredibly grateful. If you guys enjoy what I do, you want to support more content like this, welcomeadventures.com is a great way to support the channel and snag some rewards for yourself, like jumping in our hangouts, which I think we do for just $5. And honestly, might be the most fun thing that I offer over there. $5. You can talk to me and hang out with everybody and tell D&D stories once a month. It's a blast. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.